Module 2, Video 1. Effective ways to communicate with him. All right, so now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of why is it that I can't get across to him? Have you ever thought that sometimes men really truly are from Mars and women are from Venus based on that book? Because, and most likely you think that because the communication is different. Doesn't mean it's any better or any worse. Now, there's a biological reason for that. Our brains are actually wired a little bit differently. For instance, when men are engaged in a singular task, they do extremely well with singular tasks. Whereas studies have found out that women do well with multiple tasks. So we're wired a little bit differently. Now, that makes for a strange situation in our relationships. But Coach Ken has the answer. And so over this next module, I am going to show you how to communicate with him so that you can be more persuasive, so that you can get your point across, so that you can be heard, all of those things. But we've got to start where we start. Now, you know me, I'm a pragmatic kind of guy, so I'm going to give you practical things that are going to help you. I'm going to give you strategies, techniques, all of those things, but I have to start here. Now, you say, Coach, what do you mean? Right here. All right. I'm going to sit down right here and then I got to get my board right, okay? Because my people, they're kind of angled, so they want the board right, all right? So here's what we're going to do. First, everything boils down to two things. And I want you to understand this. These two things are the most important things when you're talking about communication. First, there is number one is the message. The message is the information or info that is passed during the communication process from the sender to the receiver. The message, right? Now, the message is extremely important, okay? By definition, people say the message is a compilation of information, whether visual, verbal, or numerical. I'm sending something to someone else. Then there's the second part. The second part is just as important as the message, and that's the meaning. The sender sends the message, the receiver attaches a meaning. Now, what do you mean? And the meaning is the interpretation of the message. Have you ever text someone and you sent something or said something and the other person got an attitude or got mad or they were taken aback by what you said? And you were thinking to yourself, what did I do? What did I say? And then when the person tells you what they thought you meant or how they interpreted it, you said, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all. So the interpretation of it was not the way the sender wanted you to interpret it. Now that is a typical example of how communication breaks down in relationship. She says something, he says something, she says something. And then he interprets it. We're going to get into the process next. He actually decodes it, and you're going to find out what that is. And he says, wait a minute, what does she mean by that? And all of a sudden, he gets an attitude, okay? But when either he does one or two things, either he says something about it that he has an attitude, or further, or worse, keeps it to himself, and it festers in him. Has that ever happened to you? And so in this module, I'm going to show you how to say it, how to communicate with a man, how to communicate with him so that you get the best results, so that you're persuasive, so that you're heard, so that you're able to communicate in a way, in an effective way, that both of you have a healthy communication process.